Here you go, bro.
What up? Welcome to tonight's edition of 22 MWU. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from EBK Studios, and today I'm joined by my brother Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, what's going on, Tone?
And our friend Scott. What's up, Scott?
Not much. Hello.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
And my eldest brother, Kurtis. Kurtis, I'm sure Andy's already gotten to this, but on behalf of me and Scott and all the 22 MW Utes, I just want to wish you a happy anniversary. I know we.
It's hilarious.
No, I forgot about that.
I know we've had our differences, but you're okay in my book.
Yeah. My current wife thinks that's funny too.
Okay, that's good. You know, she was always like a real good sport about that kind of stuff until you called her by your ex-wife's name.
I only did it one time, and it was your fault.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. I'll take that one. I love that one. All right, let's get into our top 22.
Top 22.
Andrew, what's your top 22?
My top 22 this week is something not super exciting. I don't know. It's always some crappy phone game, but I'm playing this game called Pocket Mortys, which is a Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty's? Okay.
Which is a Rick and Morty Cartoon Network kind of game. Nothing new, nothing that's changing the face of gaming whatsoever. It's just kind of funny and addictive. And
yeah, Kurtis is the same way. You should have seen how many levels of Candy Crush he beat while watching No Country for Old Men.
It was Angry Birds.
How about you, Scott? What's your top 22?
I haven't really been watching or doing much this week, but Friday the 13th is coming up, and I'm about to start my annual Friday the 13th marathon, if there is indeed a Friday the 13th that calendar year. I usually watch part 4. That's the best one. If you don't like that one, you're not going to like the rest of them. Is
that the one with Corey Feldman?
Hell yes, it is the one with Corey Feldman.
That's a good
Corey
one.
Feldman.
No Corey Haim, though?
No Haim, but it does have, Crispin Glover. He's in it.
Okay.
Yeah, Crispin Glover's in it. It actually has 2. Count them,
Is
2.
he neurotic?
Is he neurotic? Yes. Okay. He's a teenager trying to get laid. That's and he does. And then some other things happen to him. But it's a fun one. It's really gory. Tom Savini did the effects for it. Just fun at Crystal Lake, and it's the best looking of all of them too. So it's the goriest. It's the funnest. Just can't recommend it enough.
Okay. Kurtis, what do you got?
So my top 22 this week is this show on TBS called The Detour, and it's a kind of a Curb Your Enthusiasm type where everything that can go wrong does, but it's about a family on a vacation, husband, wife, 2 kids, and there's this whole kind of backstory as each episode goes. It starts with him talking in the future about what was happening in each episode, and there's this kind of overlying story about him getting fired and stealing something from his job, and his job was doing something shady, and it's very clearly, I don't know, but it looks like it's maybe like a 12 or 13 episode limited run type of deal. Pretty funny show, but the reason I bring it up is because the way they got me hooked on it, I don't know if it was on purpose, but it's super smart the way if it was, because it comes on TBS and I record Conan every night, and then like one night a week I'll sit down and watch all 4, all 5, or whatever. Because once you fast forward through the guests you don't care about and a couple other things, you can crank out like 3 or 4 of those in 90 minutes and play some Xbox. So I sat down to do that, and I turned on the first episode, and I was having some problems with the bottom TV that I play Xbox on. I was watching Conan on the top TV, and it just started playing this show, but I was trying to fix my TV below. It took me like 10 minutes to fix it, but in the 10 minutes it took me to fix it, I was kind of already hooked into the show. Basically what they did, I think they did it on purpose, is they said, hey, Conan's a show that a lot of people DVR because it comes on late, and hey, let's just put our new show and people will be too lazy, or hopefully they'll be trying to fix one of their other TVs to change it when they find out they're not watching Conan, and they'll get into it. And it worked. It worked on me. I think they did that on purpose. I don't know, but if they did, it was really smart.
That sounds like the Turners. Okay, so my top 22 this week is also a TV show, but I guess it's not on TV, so I don't know what you call that. But it's a show Louis C.K. did, and he released it on his website. It's called Horace and Pete. Stars him and Steve Buscemi, and it's kind of got an interesting take. It's every episode is only one or two scenes, so they're just like these really long scenes where a lot happens. It's got a lot of big names: Eddie Falco, Laurie Metcalf, tons of Alan Alda's in it. Just a really interesting, fun show. And I like Louis C.K., so he writes and directs every episode. So
You said it's on his website or something?
yeah, it's $31 for the season. So maybe you'll wait till it comes to streaming, but I like to support people I like, so I bought it.
Yeah, it sounded like you were insinuating that other people didn't like to support things that they like.
Some people don't. No,
A lot of people don't.
That's
A lot of people like to steal stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, so let's get into our first movie. Okay, this movie is from 2004, directed by Jared Hess, starring John Heder, John Grise, Aaron Ruel, Efren Ramirez, Diedrich Bader, Sandy Martin, Haley Duff, Tina Majorino is in there as well. It's called Napoleon Dynamite. So the way I found out about this movie was me and Andy used to live together. And
That's because we're siblings, perhaps?
right, yeah. But we were both in our 20s at this point, so I guess. I would have been 19, you would have been whatever. But we still lived together, and Andy was telling me about this movie, and he was like, you got to see it. And Andy did this thing that I've done before, but I don't really like, where he just kind of walks you through every funny thing in the movie. And so I'm like, okay. To be fair, me and Kurtis did the same with the Windy City Heat for you and Corey.
Yeah, that's right. You
But
did that.
so like that afternoon, I called my buddy Blake, and I was like, hey, we got to go see this movie. So we drove to Chattanooga to see it. And like from the instant the movie started, like there was somebody in the theater with just this and then when I left, I realized that was Andy. Andy had also gone to see it.
I actually saw that movie probably 7 or 8 times in the theater.
Wow, that's true. So let's start with you then. What did you like about it then? Do you still like the same stuff now? What do you think?
I think that obviously I loved this movie when it first came out, and it watching it I was kind of scared, like rewatching, because I hadn't seen it in definitely a few years for sure.
I hadn't seen it since 2008, so I'm with you.
And so I was a little scared because like I have such good memories of this movie and seeing it all the time and dressing up for Halloween and all that stuff.
I was going to ask you about that. So you dressed up as Napoleon, and the girl you were dating at the time, I guess y'all were dating, her name was Morgan. She dressed up as Deb, but shouldn't you have like dressed up as Dawn? Don't you look more like Dawn?
Yeah, probably, especially then when I was a lot skinnier for sure. Yeah, but no, that wasn't part of it. And our friend Chris dressed up as Kip. It was a good time for sure. And this was before, I mean, you can go online and get like a Napoleon Dynamite Halloween costume anywhere now. But when this movie first came out, I really worked hard to get this together.
It looked good too. It really did. And you like made your own shirt. You drew the design right and then ironed it on.
Yeah.
I can go down to the flea market and get you a vote for Pedro.
It was the endurance shirt with the horse on it, the blue one. That's what it was. But anyway, yeah, and so I was a little scared just because I didn't want to have that memory tarnished. But I think I love it even more now, to be honest. Like, I'm thinking, it's like, for a movie, this absolutely does everything right. It gets the acting right. It gets the characters right. It gets the music right. It tells it's not exactly like your typical 3-act structure, but it tells a good story. And I just the nuance of it, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I was nervous the same way too, and like you know, when he gets on the bus and he's like, "What are you gonna do today, Napoleon?" Whatever. I wasn't really into it, but like within a few minutes, like I was right back there, and I was just like, and you know, when I used to watch the movie, I never was just crazy about the soundtrack and the music, but it's gone full Marcy's Playground at this point, and I'm just like, yeah, I didn't like that before, but that sounds awesome. Yeah. Like especially like the Backstreet Boys song, like that plays even harder now than ever, I think.
And it was funny. I was just telling Scott this because I actually just finished watching it before we came on here because I've had a busy week. But I was just like, you got to remember that when this movie came out, that Backstreet Boys song was like a few years old.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like everything in this movie is old. Even when it's like current, it's old. So.
All right, Curtis. So I'm interested to know where you fall in this. Usually, like if something's really good and not super depressing, you're not a fan of it. So, what did you think about this, and did you enjoy rewatching it, or what?
I mean, I think I finally watched this because you guys told me I had to, but it was probably a couple of years later. Maybe not, because I think I saw it because everyone... Did it get popular right away, or did it take like a year before everyone was, you know, wearing Vote for Pedro shirts and saying, "Good"?
Yeah, I was trying to come up with that too. I think it got popular fairly quickly, but faded even quicker. Like you never hear anyone talk about this movie.
Okay,
anymore,
well,
so.
I guess I saw it when it came out because I know people were, you know, just killing all the jokes and saying them over and over again. So I never hated this movie. I definitely didn't love it. It has some charms to it. It kind of created a little world that I thought was interesting and I liked spending some time in. I get why people like our dad hate this movie, and it's because Napoleon is so annoying. He's just ridiculously annoying. I like Pedro. I like Uncle Rico. I even like Kip in small doses. Napoleon, I just want to punch him in the face every time he talks. He's so annoying.
I think you're supposed to dislike him to an extent, right? Like, I mean, he's a...
Well, I think a better actor would have pulled that off better.
I don't know.
mean,
I think he. There's some parts where it's like genius. Like seriously.
Well, okay, so he got one more movie after this one, and then never did anything again.
What's
so
the one more movie? He's been in tons of movies.
He's in that one where he dies or something. With Reese Witherspoon.
Blades of Glory.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, Blades of Glory is what I'm talking about, and then no one here can name another movie. That one where he dies or something.
That one with Billy Bob Thornton.
Wow, two.
Yeah,
Grandma's Boy,
School for
or,
Schmucks.
sorry, Mama's Boy.
School for Scoundrels.
Scoundrels.
Okay, whatever. I think Dinner for Schmucks is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was the lead in these movies. Or it was like they put him in there because it was like
bench warmers as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That came out. That came out 8 years ago. Yeah. I think Hollywood kind of proved that this guy isn't a great
Curtis,
actor.
like some people get one character in their life that's big for them, and some get Indiana Jones and Han Solo. How many do you have?
There was the Napoleon
I
Dynamite
don't have any. And if I did, I wouldn't expect people to think it was good because I can't act. I'm not saying he's the worst actor of all time. I'm saying he was in a difficult spot. Obviously, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people find it charming. Also, a lot of people find it super annoying. So I think you could go either way.
I don't associate with those people, though. So
well, you're related to several of them. So
here's what I can say to you, Curtis, is this movie made a lot of things cool that weren't cool before. Kip made online dating okay. And
which I thank him for. That's
right, exactly. You met your wife on eHarmony, so there you go.
There you go. Thanks, Kip. I just said I liked Kip. I don't like Napoleon.
Rex, they always like credit Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner for getting the Octagon and UFC going, but it was Rex Kwon Do. He did that.
I think it was Rico's Bust Must Plus that really got people into wanting big breasts as far as women and men enjoying them.
All right. I like some things about this movie. The music and is one of the best parts of it. It has a great little ditties and tunes in there that really kind of set some of the scenes. I like the world they created where it's modern time, but it's not. But this is pretty good for my taste. I think about it today the same thing I thought about it the first time I watched it 10, 12 years ago. It's okay. Napoleon's annoying.
You know, when I saw this all those years ago, I didn't know the word thirsty and what that meant, but Deb's thirsty, like for sure. For sure.
I think it's pronounced firsty.
Thirsty, yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be thirsty, but yeah. Okay, what about you, Scott? What do you think about this movie?
Well, I think I discovered this movie on DVD in college. I saw it one time, and then I'm not sure if I 100% got it. And then it took like one more viewing, and the pushing of all my friends to go to watch it again. It was like, I liked it, but I didn't really get it. And then I watched it again, and I just fell in love with it. The most distinct thing I remember about when this movie came out and when all the buzz about it was going on was we were trying to get my buddy Richie. You're aware,
Richie?
Yeah, you're aware of Richie. We're trying to get my buddy Richie to see it, and we go over to a friend's house, and Napoleon Dynamite tells us, "Oh, you gotta see this movie," but at the friend's house, they'd already seen it so many times, so they're watching it with the commentary. So his first experience with Napoleon Dynamite was with commentary, which was
So Richie probably didn't get it.
Man, stop the podcast.
Wow, yeah, that
Funnier than
was great. Yeah, that was really great.
no. The first time he did not get it. When we left the house, he goes like, "I don't get it. It's a movie about a guy who can't eat steak." Because that was a big point in the commentary. The guy was a vegetarian, the Rico. And he kept about the steak, and that's all Richie took away from it. It's about a guy who couldn't eat steak.
But is that the funniest part in the movie to anyone else when he throws the steak at Napoleon?
Yeah, I think that's one of that, and like when he runs over the Tupperware, you laugh.
Well, my biggest laugh in the whole movie, every time, and what really sold me on it is when the old man shoots the cow. That just...
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Especially because of like the foreshadowing or lead up to that.
Yeah, and then the school bus just appears out of nowhere, and then you hear a bang and the kids scream, and it's like, okay, I'm in after that.
But that line where she says, "We're running out of steaks," but he's coming over to take care of that. So good. But I imagine Richie described Napoleon the way he describes me and just said, "You're an idiot." So.
No, I don't think so. But after a while, I think Richie did see it normally, and he's a big fan as you or me. He loves the movie. But watching it this time, like I hadn't seen it but like 6 or 7 years, and I was concerned too. But yeah, it holds up. The movie is just has a very loose story, but it's just a series of vignettes or sketches, and they range from kind of funny to hilariously funny. And they're just these sweet characters that you really just can't hate. I mean...
Except for Napoleon.
Yeah.
I did notice the mouth breathing. I did notice a lot more this time. Just his mouth is always open. It's just so open. But I didn't hate it. It made me feel empathetic for him, But watching it this time, the emotions I got watching this time is I don't know if I was close to high school when I saw it before, but watching it this time, I just felt just more awkward. I just feel so awkward. I feel for these kids, because nobody in this movie is cool. The cool kids are not cool. Nobody is cool.
Well, even in like a world like Hollywood where high school kids always look super old, I don't know that anyone's ever looked older than Don. Don looks like he's 45 years old. He's dating Lizzie McGuire's little sister.
No, older sister.
Older sister,
Okay.
excuse me.
It's just the wrinkles and the winces he makes.
Yeah, and just like a...
The other thing I had forgotten about this movie is how much I hated Randy. Like, I think I probably even hate him more now. When he smushes Napoleon's tots, like, I just want to fight him right then and there. Like, what a jerk. Like, he had some sweet
Napoleon
tots.
deserved it for wearing those pants.
But Napoleon had a sweet thing going. He's sitting in class, popping some tots, enjoying a good time, thinking about a new dance routine. And Randy just ruined it. What a jerk.
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say the tagline for this movie, if I can remember correctly, was "He's out to prove, he's got nothing to prove."
According to IMDb 10 minutes ago, you are correct. I looked it up.
See,
Good. There you go.
nice. Something.
All right, so let's get some ratings. Curtis?
This isn't for everyone, and if you haven't seen it, I don't know that you're going to want to go back and watch it, but if you did and you liked it, you'll probably still like it, or if you're like me, you thought it was okay, you'll probably still think it's okay. 3 out of 5.
Andrew.
I'm giving it a 2. No. No, this is obviously a 5 canned heats out of 5 for sure.
Okay, Scott.
I give it a solid 4 Tupperwares out of 5 Tupperwares. I really enjoyed it. I love the movie. The only reason why it doesn't quite make it a 5 is it just makes me feel like I'm back in high school and I'm there. It just makes me feel so weird.
We had a good time in high school. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we had a good time, but I'm talking about inside my head in high school. That wasn't a pretty place to be. You did not want to be there.
All right.
And
For me, it's going to be 4 mountain lions out of 5. I really, really enjoy this movie, and I think it holds up, and I think you'll like it. Okay, so we went super long on that movie, which is great, considering when the next movie we're going to talk about. It's directed by Cameron Levine, starring Chance Crawford and Tyler Labine, who's also known as the fat guy that every show he's on gets canceled. It's called Mountain Men, so if you listen to this show, all 3 of my brothers have been on this show, though Corey have been on a podcast with me, though Corey very briefly. I want to say, Scott, you have one brother named Steve. Am I right?
I do have a brother named Steve,
okay.
yes.
So why don't you start out and tell me what you thought about this movie and if it relates with your brotherly relationship whatsoever.
Yeah, a little bit. Andy knows better than me. But, it's... my brother Steve, he's 6 or 7 years older than me, so there's definitely a disconnect there. But, we lived together for a little while in college. Don't want to get into all that. But, there's definitely like some sibling right. If you live together with your brother for a while, as adults especially, you get into stuff.
I don't know. I think our situation worked out pretty good. What do you think, Curtis?
Curtis made his wife kick you out.
I'm not going to talk about that whole thing, but it worked out, yeah. Everyone's doing good now.
Just for the record, again, Curtis loves to put my business out there. Not so much a fan of putting his.
I wasn't going to put Andy's business out there.
Okay. That's really nice of you. That's pretty sweet of you.
But yeah, I'll put Tony's, no problem.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Sometimes being brothers is weird.
That's for sure.
But overall, I like the movie. I did. It's just barely a pass for me though. Just overall. I really like Tyler Labine. I thought he's playing the same character he always does, but he's funny, he's affable, he's pretty much the main character of the movie, and it took some surprising turns. When they were in the wilderness, I didn't know if they were just going to be stuck in the shed and talking about their feelings for the rest of the movie, or other stuff was going to go. I didn't know how it was going down, but then shit got a lot worse. And I was genuinely concerned for Tyler Labine's character. And his brother, you're supposed to feel... I did not care for him at all. I just thought he was kind of a douchebag.
Well, I think you're supposed to think he's a douchebag,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so... But I just... and there's some hints that he might have some, mental problems, and he's obviously getting over the death of his father. But I didn't really care what happened to him. However, I did care about Tyler Bean's character, what would happen to him if his brother died. So I was really rooting for him to save his brother, and then, all that stuff. But, overall I liked it. But the douchey brother, I just really didn't care for him too much.
All right, what'd you think, Curtis?
I mean, it's just a short movie, so I got a short review. What do I say about most movies are not worth talking about? This isn't worth talking about. It just exists. There's nothing that's bad enough about it to talk about how bad it is, and there's nothing good enough to talk about how good it is. It simply is there and exists, and I would not recommend checking it out. Some of the stuff Scott said is accurate, but didn't really work for me. I was bored to tears by this movie, but it's not it exists. I give it that. It's a movie. Someone made it. It's more than I did.
Normally, yeah, that's true. Normally, I would crap on Kurtis for a bad pod, but I think he's 100% spot on with this one. It's just this movie is not worth talking about. This movie is not the least bit entertaining to me. I like Tyler Labine and some stuff. I've committed to many shows of his that have been canceled. And unfortunately, this one didn't get canceled halfway through, and I had to watch all hour and a half of it. That's unfortunate. But I don't know. Not for me. I never got into anything about it. I guess what Scott said about it took a unique turn where they burned the cabin down. Like, yeah, I didn't see that coming. But, again, if I don't care about the characters, it's really hard for me to get into stuff like that. Andrew?
Yeah, well, Curtis said that it was a short movie. Yeah, somehow it took me 3 days to finish.
We on the show call that conjuring.
I was just like, okay, I've taken about as much as I can take here. It's like, we'll regroup tomorrow and see what's up. But
you know, the movie I had the biggest case of that with, it wasn't on this show, but it was just the title was so intriguing. It was the 41-year-old virgin who knocked up Sarah Marshall and felt super bad about it. And I hate those parody movies, but I was like, what a good title. Anyways, back to what you were saying.
yeah, you know, like I just did not like. It started out kind of because I had no idea what this movie was about, no clue whatsoever what it was about. I was like, oh, he's sitting in a hospital and he's selling weed in a mountain town. Oh, this could be kind of interesting, but no, it's not interesting at all because that is not a zero part of the movie. Yeah. And I'm not saying that if that would have carried on, it would have been more interesting, but it just like I just could not get on board with this movie. It just it's pretty much Curtis's review summed up exactly. It's like, yeah, it exists, and I watched it. It's not bad enough for me to crap on it, but it's just a lot of nothing happens in it. I mean, some stuff like the truck setting the cabin on fire. I thought that was genuinely funny.
Yeah,
that was a funny scene. And when he's I don't know. There's a couple of like funny scenes, but only a couple. I just didn't care for it.
All right, let's get some ratings. Scott?
I'm on the vaguely positive side of this, so I guess I would give it 2.6 if that was a possibility.
Not possible. So
I'll give
3 then.
I'll give it a vague 3, a light 3, and I guess like the main reason I enjoy it is I had insomnia that night, and that helped out a lot, and I just kind of trudged through it, but I don't know, just Tyler Bean was enough to like make kind of funny, but yeah, the other elements I didn't really care for. So yeah, just on the vaguely positive side of this, guys.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'm on the vaguely negative side. It's just so indifferent. I guess I would give it. Like I was gonna say 3, but probably 2 dag cramps out of 5.
All right, I'm going to give it 1 Son of Tucson out of 5. And,
that was a good show. I wish that would have carried on.
I actually liked the show, yeah. Curtis?
Not worth talking about, not worth rating, but Tony will get mad at me if I don't, so 2 out of 5.
Since when does that stop? So real quick, like, I don't know. Curtis, I'm sure you kind of remember when this happened, but like a long time ago, Superfan Kyle hit me up and he was like, you should move the main movie to the end. Don't give it to the listeners at the beginning. Give it to them at the end. So here we are. I'm excited to talk about this movie. I think it's a little bit polarizing. So let's get into it. From 2016, directed by the Russo brothers, starring Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Don Cheadle, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman, Paul Bettany, Emily Van Camp, Paul Rudd, Elizabeth Olsen, Marissa Tomei, Tom Holland, Frank Grillo, Martin Freeman, William Hurt, Josh Peck, and Stan Lee are in there as well. It's called Captain America: Civil War.
Wait, let me stop you. I'm sorry. Josh Peck was in there?
According to Rotten Tomatoes. I know you're a big Drake and Josh fan, so I put that in there. I preferred it the first time around when it was called Keenan and Kel.
Well, I actually watch Grandfathered all the time, actually.
Oh, yeah, and he's the son on that, right? But he's got the like lazy-looking face because he had the lap band. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
So I'm gonna start this out. My thoughts on this movie are like Marvel made a big mistake, and they're gonna realize it. And the Russo brothers have made a big mistake because you might as well pack it up, boys. This movie is gonna be impossible to follow. You're just not gonna be able to make a better movie than this.
Wasn't sure where you were going.
Well, I thought he was going to go back to how great Batman v Superman was. Would never be able to top it.
No, we talked financially, and so I helped you out. I went twice to see this movie. I went last night and this afternoon. I watched it in IMAX the first time and 2D the second time, and Nolan trilogy aside, this is as close as you get to a perfect superhero movie. This is the story is cohesive. It makes sense. It follows its own rules. It calls back a little bit to the other movies, but it also kind of would work as a standalone movie, which is what you got to have when you're in a 13 movie cinematic universe. You can't go rewatch every movie before you go see the new one. This movie was just super exciting, and I got more I want to say. We'll get to spoilers in a little bit, but I want to hear what you thought, Curtis.
I absolutely agree. This after Batman Begins and Dark Knight, this is as good as it gets. It's better than Dark Knight Rises. It's definitely this movie is so unbelievably good.
Don't set the bar too high now.
Well, it's easy. I don't want to say easy, bad, but let's speak relatively here. It's easy to make a good Batman movie because Batman's a real person who can exist in a real scenario. It's somewhat believable, and obviously with the first two movies, especially Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan killed that. To make a movie this believable, this coherent, what a script. I mean, the way they made everyone's motivations clear, including the villain. I have like 80 things I want to say about this movie. I'm probably not going to get to them all. I want to let everyone else get into it. But man, this was so good. The way they did it with the villain, where that would never have fit in another movie, but in this movie where the main characters, the good guys, are fighting each other, it was so perfect. They didn't have to give him a ton of motivation. They gave him more than they give most of their characters, but they didn't have to spend a lot of time with him. They didn't have to spend enough time with all this backstory. He does what he does. They tell you why he does it, and it all works. And then they can just wrap up his little part, nice and neat. And they did that with all the characters. There were so many characters in this movie, and granted, a lot of them have had many movies to be kind of established. The thing they did with Black Panther. They're like, we don't have time to spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes with this character. So they give him motivation right from the get-go. And it makes sense. You don't have to spend 15 scenes with him building that character up for his place in this movie, which he had a big place in it. And they just did that so well. The only thing I will a little bit disagree with is I do think the other movies help. One of my concerns going into this was that, especially from the first trailer, and I think you even mentioned this, Tony, that Tony Stark seemed really right and Steve Rogers seemed really wrong from the whole perspective. But I went back and watched some of those movies, especially Winter Soldier, and when you watch those movies and you see, especially in Winter Soldier, even a little bit in Avengers, how much he distrusts S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of that thing, it makes sense why he's not willing to sign those papers. And it also makes sense even from Age of Ultron, which is, not one of the better movies. I kind of liked it, but it's definitely not one of the better films in this universe. Tony's motivation makes sense a little more from that. And everything just worked so well in this movie. It's absolutely fantastic. I wish I could go back and watch it again right now.
Yeah, let's hold off on talking about the side taking until we get into spoilers, because I have a lot I want to say about that. But just to touch on what Curtis was saying real quick, I tried to avoid spoilers, but all I kept hearing was people two trains of thought. Oh my God, Spider-Man makes this movie. Oh my God, Ant-Man makes this movie. I think everyone makes this movie. They did such a good job with every character. It was absolutely unbelievable. And so yeah, like the other movies help with that, but this movie does it within itself too. And you know what, Curtis? I didn't mention this in my first, and I'm gonna get to you, Scott and Andy. I promise. We didn't ask you about
Just glad to be here.
The right people told jokes. There was far less jokes, and the right people told jokes. not everyone telling the exact same style of joke.
The jokes were very good in this.
Like Anthony Mackie had a lot of jokes, and it really kind of fit with his character, and it worked. And Tony was snarky like he always is, and Paul Rudd was funny. And all right, I've put it off long enough. Now we're gonna get to hear Scott's review.
I liked it a lot.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know what else you guys said about everything. I mean, it's a great movie. I mean, to some people, the beginning of the movie could seem slow, but they take their time to build the story up and what it's going to be and what's going to go down. And then when things get moving about halfway through, things really get going, like right after we give spoilers, is that okay? Or?
No, we'll get there. Let's not go there.
Okay. Well, okay, we'll just say like halfway through when they start putting the band together. When they start...
The bands.
Yeah, the bands together, plural, when they start interacting with each other, the humor starts to light up, and each character is just vibrant and funny, and you feel for all of them. And then the overarching story, usually like I can see, when I watch a movie and there's like a little tidbit up front about what's going to happen later, you can see that a mile away. But this movie, they forecast something, but they did it so you weren't, it wasn't like in plain view. And the ending, generally, I was surprised about the events that happened at the ending.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. But I'm just saying how impressed I was about that. Usually I'm jaded with that stuff. And I love that. Each character is great. The only character that I couldn't really relate to is the Vision, but that's the perfect one you can't really get behind because he's a robot that just became human. And he's trying to figure it out himself.
Yeah.
But every character is great. It was an awesome movie. The action was great. I love the interaction between when they're in the Volkswagen.
Yeah.
When they're in the Volkswagen, that's great.
Funny.
Yeah, those guys just had their own 3 movie. Captain America, Falcon, and Bucky go on a road trip. I'd watch that all day long.
They may have to.
I would. And everything the characters did made sense. Just what you guys said times 10. It's just a great movie.
Before we go to you, Andy, I wanted we've had some recastings in this cinematic universe. We had Edward Norton was the original Hulk, and then Mark Ruffalo came along, and then the more notable one probably is Terrence Howard, just because he pitched a big fit, about not getting enough money to play Don Cheadle's character in the later movies, which obviously was such a bad decision on his part.
Yeah.
I mean, just such a bad decision at this point. But,
I heard he has an empire now, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. That show's done really well, but it's TV money as opposed to Marvel money and Disney money. So, but I know they signed Sebastian Stan to like a 9-picture deal, which is like crazy. Like, is he gonna have anything else going on? Like, I still don't. Like, I see him in stuff all the time, but he doesn't come off as a star to me. I think they should recast that role. This guy was running constantly, and he was on a motorcycle constantly. Tom Cruise, anyone? Has there ever been a role more suited for Tom Cruise? I don't know. All right.
Well, he is a character who's never supposed to age, so.
There you go, too. Yeah.
I do have a minor gripe with his hair. That character, I don't like his haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Bucky haircut, the 1940s thing, but I just don't like the black.
Well, it's the comic book haircut.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I like it.
He's one of the toughest characters in this movie, and he is just a bad man. I would not mess with that guy. All right.
Is it my turn? Okay, great.
Oh,
no,
it's passed.
Okay, no, yeah, really great movie, and I started out watching it, like, it almost felt like 2 different movies to me. Just, like, the first half was one thing, and the second half was another thing, even though it really tied together. But really great. When I first started watching, I'm like, oh, this is good. I don't know about, the second one, Cap 2. Whatever it's called.
Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Cap 2 good, but absolutely it is. I mean, like the second, like that giant fight, and oh man, just all the characters. It was just so much fun. And I don't go to the movies a lot. Like the last movie I went and saw was Batman v Superman, and you know how I felt about that one. And I was like, man, this is how a Superman or a superhero movie is supposed to be. I mean, this is what you want. You want a story that makes sense. You want characters that you like and can relate. You want action scenes that are actually exciting and
with
action-packed.
characters you care about. That's one of the things. The action scenes were incredible, but you just care so much about the characters that you're invested. And the thing where Cap's like trying not to kill or let Bucky kill anyone, like that makes for a great action scene. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, I mean, and granted they're starting out, but like, so I'm giving a little bit of leeway. But I mean, they have trouble with just working 3-4 characters into a movie when you got like 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 characters that are just packed and everything makes sense and everyone has a motive and everyone tells their story, and it's just like, wow, this is so much fun.
On paper, this should be a disaster. I mean, this should not work, but it does 1,000,000 times over.
I mean, like in some ways, like this did the Batman v Superman story better than it did. Like Batman v Superman should have been
If by some you mean always, yeah.
well, like what I mean is like Batman should have been like way more mad about what Superman had done to Metropolis, and like this was like not even like what Scarlet Witch did was like not even close to that, and people were way more mad about it. To a point where it seemed very realistic because that's the way morons work, and we've given all the power to morons. But it's like I still make the same argument. Like they saved so many people. How are you just gonna look this gift horse in the face and get so upset with them that a few people died? Yeah, that's terrible, but it could have been everyone, you moron. So, you know, I don't talk in theaters, but that's what I'm saying in my head. All right,
That's true, but like to be fair, like when it's your brother or your son or your whatever.
No, that's a very selfish way to look at life. Just me. It's the height of narcissism.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
that's the way real people are. Yeah. I mean, I thought they handled it really well. Compared to something like 24, where every season you have to just face palm when they're trying to stop Jack Bauer, and you're like, he saved the planet or the country or the president 4 seasons in a row. It's season 5. Just let him do what he's got to do. I never felt like that in this movie. I think there were valid concerns. It wasn't like they were trying to stop them. They were even making excuses for them. There were cases where they could have easily arrested some of these characters, and they tried everything they could to say, like, no, we're not going to arrest you because of what you've done. We just want to get some controls. I thought they did it great, where both sides had an argument. And again, you go back to some of the previous movies and factor that in, and it just worked perfectly, where I didn't know whose side I was on. I still don't know whose side I'm on.
All right, so I want to get into that, but let's get to spoilers. But one more thing before we do that. I don't know if y'all realized this. Here's the Marvel lineup. In 2016, we're getting Doctor Strange. In 2017, we're getting Guardians Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming by Sony. They're counting that in the MCU now. Thor Ragnarok. And then in 2018, Black Panther, and then Avengers Infinity War, which is getting retitled. I don't think we're going to see a lot of these characters for a very long time, right?
Well, that can lead into spoilers there if you want.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's lead right into spoilers. So you know the deal. Haven't seen it? Go. You have seen it, or you don't care about spoilers? Stay. Okay.
So I mean, on that note, I think that they set up. That's the thing that's always come up in these movies, and it's been a joke in a couple of them. Hey, why don't we go get the Avengers, or why didn't the Avengers show up? Well, they're kind of established that there ain't much of the Avengers left for the next 3 or 4 films. There's the phone to call, the bat phone, to call when they're needed, I guess. But they're going on that road trip that maybe is going to be another movie. Hopefully they squeeze in there. But I think they set up that these characters aren't going to be there for a while.
Right, and these movies don't Doctor Strange isn't going to, Guardians isn't, Spider-Man Tony Stark will be in, so that's one. But Thor Ragnarok's just Thor and Hulk, and then Black Panther is probably actually going to just take place in Wakanda, I imagine. I don't know, but so it's going to be a long time, and I think
that one may have to kind of set up Infinity War. So
maybe so. So I think like that's exciting. This movie leaves you in such a it doesn't clean everything up. It leaves you in a bad place, and I think that's, kind of neat to have to sit with that for 2 years to get to some resolve, and I think it's going to be a really big payoff. But again, I don't know how they can make a movie that tops this one. So
I was genuinely concerned. It's like, are they just going to leave them in the prison at the end of the movie? I would have been so. I would have got the ending, but I would not left the theater comfortable. You know what I mean? Just with Scarlet Witch all tied up, with her Hannibal Lecter vest on. Just they look so sad in there. Don't leave them in there, and they're not. So I was happy about that. But I guess potentially you could see a lot of them in Black Panther because they're on Wakanda, right?
yeah, that could happen, but even that still is 2018, so a long ways away. What did y'all think about young Robert Downey Jr.?
Oh, I thought that was awesome. That looks so real. Looks so real.
That's crazy.
We might look at it 5 years from now and be like, "Oh, that looks super fake."
But you know what? That was such a cool scene, and that's just like one of the many things I love about this movie because it seems like they're doing one thing with that scene, but they're really leading up to the swerve of that Bucky killed his parents, and I didn't see that coming. And
to Scott's point, I didn't either. And that whole end was so amazing. They have the moment where they kind of make up, or at least Iron Man and Cap do, and you're sitting there and you've seen the trailer and they're fighting in that building and you're like, what's going to happen? How are they? And then that comes out and then the villain's plan is revealed and maybe he got a little lucky. Everything worked out the way he wanted to, but wow. Yeah. Amazing. The whole, I saw this in a full theater. The whole theater couldn't help but murmur to themselves and talk. It came out of nowhere. Just an amazing reveal that's not, Bruce Willis is dead or Luke, I am your father. It's just a little thing, but they dropped the hints in the movie and it has such an impact on the ending of that movie. And one of the characters saying their mom's name at the end didn't just magically make everything okay.
Well, to be fair, he did go, your mom's name is Sarah, and Cap was like,
that was early in the movie. Not at the end.
But it just made that. You saw the trailers and you saw them fighting and you're like, well, why are they fighting now? And that videotape, that just made my jaw drop. I did not see this coming. I didn't think this was going to happen. And you're, you can't blame Tony Stark for wanting to kill the guy that killed his freaking parents. You're totally, I get him, and Cap's not going to let his buddy down, and you're just, ugh, you feel bad for everybody.
That leads to what this movie does best, and it does a lot of things great, and that is it doesn't really, it keeps kind of jerking you back and forth. Like I went in Team Iron Man, and then I quickly became Team Cap, but then they keep bringing Robert Downey Jr. in to explain his side of it, and then even when he meets Spider-Man, Spider-Man's side seems like he would actually relate more with Captain America, and at the funeral, whatever the freaking Peggy Carter's, whatever her, Sharon Carter, there you go. The thing she says, it just takes you back and forth, and it's just such a fun ride. And again, I'm just, even watching it the second time, I was just so amazed they pulled this off, and it deserves all the. I can't believe that it's only 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's insane.
I know it'll never happen, but this should get an Oscar for best screenplay. The writing in this movie, the way they made everything work is so unbelievable. I went in a fan of these movies, saying, "Hey, I'm going to have a good time here and like this movie." Mm-hmm. I did not know I would come out of it being in shock and how good it was and how great a job they did with the story and how much thought they put into it. Like that scene with Sharon Carter, this movie's 2.5 hours long, and they made every minute of it count. They really made sure that when we're on screen, even if it's an action sequence, there's something going on that's going to explain what this character does later or what this character thinks later. And man, it's that something that's just really special in an action movie, especially one of these blockbuster franchises. As good as a lot of these have been, Winter Soldier was great. I would say that this and the other two Captain Americas, along with Guardians of the Galaxy, are probably the best four. I really love Chris Evans as Captain America. I went back and watched the other two. They're so good, and this one is amazing. Granted, it's maybe not really a Captain America movie. I think it's more of a Captain Bucky and Tony movie with a lot of great side characters who are, again, well fleshed out in their own right. Everything everyone does just makes sense. Everyone's given a lot of respect. And the best part of it is that there's these just great, colorful characters, and it's not just a bunch of brooding, angry at the world. And they've developed them. The characters they bring in this movie, they develop them throughout the movie. We start to see the beginnings of Spider-Man going from we get, 15 minutes of screen time with them. Man, they killed that 15 minutes. Tom Holland was great. Spider-Man's costume looked awesome.
Yeah.
Whatever they're going to do in the next movie, I think they established it well. Same thing with Black Panther. He's only have a few lines. Everything he does makes sense up until the very end where he kind of has the shift. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. This is amazing that this is a comic book movie that has a guy who has a magic yellow jewel in his head.
Black Panther has just such a nice character arc, you know.
Oh, yeah, and it's so brief too.
Yeah, and it's very short, but by the end, he's the whole movie's driven for revenge, and it's just like, well, look what happened to this guy. I don't want to be this guy.
And I put that on Chadwick Boseman too, because with that one line where he says I'm king and a warrior, that just says so much about what that character is about. You didn't have to see him sitting on a throne or any other kind of bull crap that you would see if they did a true origin story, and they may do that later. But what I'm saying is they very simply told this great story, and he delivered it really well. He was really good in this.
And I completely agree. And I didn't know much about the actors that played either Black Panther or
weren't
Spider-Man.
You in a movie with this guy?
Yeah. But he was just hitting baseballs the whole time, so.
Okay.
That's all I knew. But yeah, fair enough. But I was just like, man, he does such a great job. I mean, and the Spider-Man, me, Spider-Man is my man.
Yeah.
And I'm really, I think he's the best. He's going to be the best Spider-Man.
Well, I don't think that's going to be hard. But here's the deal: is I feel like he can carry a movie. Again, he's out of the suit for 10 minutes and then in the suit for 20 minutes, and I feel like he could carry a movie, and that's why you always get these super old Chris O'Donnell types playing Spider-Man, is because you need somebody that can carry a movie, and you don't usually put that in the hands of I think this kid's 18, but he looks 15.
Yeah, those Andrew Garfield, they were fine. They weren't bad. They weren't great. But he was just such a terrible Spider-Man. It was just so awesome to see. It was rinsing your palate from that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which didn't make bad movies, but was a bad Spider-Man. And this kid came in; he's only on screen for a little bit, and he was so good. The whole scene at the airport, but especially, he really made that, and maybe even Paul Rudd coming in there too. They made that even better. That whole scene was just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I get worn out on these giant action sequences, and we have to destroy the whole city. That scene was so good. It was so amazing.
And
By
Giant
far,
Man was
my
so
favorite part.
awesome. And IMAX, it looked so good. How many times have you seen a shot similar to that and it just looks like complete crap? It looked really, really good.
And that's my favorite part of the whole movie, the airport fight scene. They're fighting each other, but also they don't hate each other. They're holding their punches.
Black Panther
is Disney and Hawkeye. I don't know why they're so disrespectful to that guy. He doesn't get a freaking power, which is, fine or whatever. They try and give him some story in Age of Ultron, but then they're just like, you can't even get called Hawkeye. It's just Clint. Clint. He doesn't even get his name. And then what does Ant-Man call him? Arrow Guy?
Well, to be fair, there's not a lot of names being tossed about, though. Most people.
Ant-Man Tic Tac.
Yeah, they call him, but I don't know.
Well,
that's
Tony.
true.
They'll just call him Tony.
But Captain America always gets his rank given to him, it seems like.
Yeah, no, it's not like Don Cheadle's being like, man, no one calls me War Machine.
Well, he's the Iron Patriot. That's why they wouldn't call him the War Machine.
well, okay, whatever.
No, he's War Machine again.
Yeah,
now.
he was War Machine in that movie.
Oh, okay, my bad. Anyway, I was making a joke about how stupid of a name change that was. But anyways, here's another thing I liked about this movie was I hate when movies and stuff they they get super sexist about it and like, oh, we've got a woman character, we have to have another woman character fight the like, no, women can fight men. Like if they're adults and they agree to fight and there's big consequences, yeah, heck yeah, to a guy can fight a girl. And Scarlett Johansson was the best she's been in any of these movies. I usually don't care for her, but she was great in this movie, and they gave her some great action scenes. I mean, she wasn't pregnant, and that helps, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't have a huge part to play, but when this goes for all the characters, when she was on the screen, they made it count. I think we've already said that a few times, but and she's kind of the one who's in the middle, and she's maybe even kind of the point of view of the audience a little bit, in that. I was in the same boat as her. I could never decide whose team I was on.
Okay, I was pretty much Team Cap the whole way.
So I just real quick wanted to get like what you hated or didn't like about the movie. I had to get like super nitpicky. Like I didn't think Elizabeth Olsen's accent was always consistent.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It faded.
That's kind of my list.
Some of the action sequence, especially that first one, maybe a little more shaky cam than I care for. But I think they were doing that to kind of show just to make the situation more tense, which actually kind of worked. Just not my cup of tea visually. I don't have a lot. This is really close to perfect for a movie that has a guy with a magic yellow jewel in his head.
Again, I think it was a bit of a jar, just slightly jarring, just ever so slightly jarring from the first part to kind of the last part, because it started one way and then it just took a turn, a great turn, a turn that was much appreciated. But it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of felt like it wasn't that way through the whole thing, and that's really just that's as like critical as I can get about it.
I didn't care for the what do you call it, the projection thing? Was it
Spider-Man after credit sequence?
No, well, I just really didn't care for the movie theater I saw it in. Yeah. That was it. I think they left the 3D filter on, so everything was really dark.
Okay.
And the apron.
Oh, wow, that's the worst.
When it said Bucharest, the B was off to the side and the T was off to the side. But I really, other than my issue with the Vision, I just really couldn't get behind him. But he's, he just turned into a living being like a year ago. So that's kind of it, that Vision and the rave.
There's a complaint for you, Tony. There's lots of words on the screen in this movie.
Yeah, but and the way they were doing the cities kind of bothered me until they put up Queens and the audience went nuts. And I also love the scene too where Cap's like, "You got heart, kid. Where are you from?" And he's like, "Queens, Brooklyn." I mean, I'm not from New York, but I thought that was pretty cool.
And I personally don't recall seeing this, but like when they're speaking Russian and stuff, they would only like print the words that were really like that really mattered, like they would only like
they were just reading a list of words. I think
that too, but there was another scene where he was speaking in Russian, but they'd only show up certain words, and I was like, oh well, these are the words that you need to
a few weeks ago Curtis picked like a movie that was like 80% in Spanish. Did you know
75
that,
tops 75 tops.
So
yeah, we both liked it.
Okay,
we both said it was good.
That's fine. All right, so we've already blown up the bus here.
I got one question for you though, Tony.
Sure.
Does watching this movie make you change your mind a little bit on your review or
great question. Great question.
Yeah.
Of Batman v Superman?
Oh, should it? I mean, like, can I not like steak and hot dogs?
But you've said before that. Haven't you said before that sometimes you go and you watch something done better and it makes you not like something?
Sure.
As much.
But I really I just seen this movie, twice, and it's a great movie, but I haven't like sat down and compared it to Batman v Superman. So I'll get back to you. But as of now, no, I still love Batman v Superman. I saw it twice in theaters too.
I think that this movie did everything right, and Batman and Superman did everything just. Not everything wrong, but just this is what it should have done.
Again, it's 2 movies versus 13. So y'all just need to settle down. You just need to settle down. That's it. And,
all right. For me though, it did that when we did that, I didn't want to crap all over because I didn't think everything was terribly done. I just didn't think it was well done either. And then this comes out, and it was like, okay, actually maybe it was terribly done because look what they did. And Tony's right; it's 13-2, but couldn't Clark Kent / Superman just been a little bit different character in the second movie than he was in the first? And there been a little bit of character development there. Maybe the first one I'm having these superpowers and being indestructible is just I don't fit in and so emo about it. Like, couldn't we got past that in the second movie and not have the second movie be him be the exact same? Again, the arc Captain America is taken in this movie is one of the most underrated things in cinema history. One day it needs to be called out how great it is. He's so good. Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, and to go from the first Avengers to Cap 2 to this, it's absolutely unbelievable. And the one thing Tony really hit on is where do they go from here? That doesn't mean they can't make good movies, but I don't see Avengers Infinity War that they're going to try to pull. There's no way it's going to be as good as this. I don't care that the Russo brothers are directing it. It's not going to be as good as this. This is as good as you can get.
Yeah, I agree. 5 Glendale human beings out of 5 for me. Curtis.
5 out of 5.
Andrew.
Yeah, 5 Quinjets out of 5 for sure.
Scott.
5 Captain America shields out of 5 Captain America shields.
All right. Okay, if y'all don't mind, since we've already blown up the bus, I'm going to do a quick Tony's tantrum where I'm going to complain about a few things here. We talked a few weeks ago about how much me and Curtis hate, that the new Ghostbusters movies is also called just Ghostbusters. I hate the same thing about songs. In the 1970s, Bob Dylan came out with a song called Forever Young. And then in the mid-'80s, Alphaville came out with a song called Forever Young. And then a little bit later, Rod Stewart comes out with another song called Forever Young. Do we need 10 versions of songs named Stairway to Heaven? Or can we just respect that some people already kind of claim that name and you just move on and you pick something else? And the same thing, and I've complained about this in the past too, but real quick, is I was trying not to watch the new Suicide Squad trailer, but I saw it, and they play Ballroom Blitz in it, right? Did y'all see this?
Yeah.
And the one before that played Bohemian Rhapsody. If both of those songs haven't already been in a movie that is super iconic, maybe I'd be struck down right now.
Well, maybe they're just Tarantino. I can't even pronounce it. Tarantino ain't it?
Okay.
Oh,
I love Wayne's World too. So I love Wayne's World, the first one.
Are you talking about how they used Ballroom Blitz and Bordello of Blood?
No, that's not.
No, both of those songs were in Wayne's World.
I know.
Screwing off.
all I think about hearing that song is Dennis Miller killing vampires with a shotgun. Maybe you guys had different childhoods.
Yeah, we did, I think.
Who's Anthony?
All right, so we appreciate you tuning in this week. You can check us out on Twitter. I'm 22MWU. Curtis is at W2S Podcast. Andy's at Bug Trigy and the Static Cowboys. And Scott is at Scott. Next week we're going to be reviewing Money Monster. We're going to also pay tribute to the 30-year anniversary of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And brace yourself, people. Another Curtis